Hello everyone and welcome to Fist Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern for our third episode this fine Saturday afternoon. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, Fist Chat fans. I'm getting quite into this. Maybe we should do a 24/7 Fist Chat marathon one day.
Or maybe just an online streaming thing. We're never off.
Take questions live even. So if anyone's for that, tweet us, let us know, and maybe we'll hook something up.
Absolutely. So don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, RSS and Feedburner, and our video episodes via YouTube, Vimeo and Digicosm TV. Also interact with us on our social media feeds, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. Love to hear from you. We've got an ebook, The Fist Report, at fistreport.com, hosted on Amazon, 99 cents a copy. Great read and it helps to support us continue to do this show. So highly encourage you to check that out. And don't forget our supplementary content too, our weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And recommend us to anyone who may be interested in our consistent discussions on film, science and technology. All right, now following up, we've done an episode on Apple and its current state in the world, and we've just done one on Windows and Microsoft, and it would only be fair now that we turn to Google, Android and whoever else you want to throw in there as as part of the rest, the future of where those guys are sitting. Prepared some background reference articles to this just to get my head around it, because I think I was just mentioning this before. There's a lot of interesting things that are a part of Google and Android, and particularly what Samsung are doing. The problem I've always had with them is that it's just infinitely expandable and like there doesn't seem to be an end to it. Like, for example, you can picture in your head what Apple's doing. You can picture in your head what Microsoft's doing. You could to an extent picture what Samsung's doing.
Yes, you could actually.
But in terms
Very
of
sneaky.
Yeah, but in terms of Google and Android, Google's obviously got their search business, which is obviously easy to understand. But when you're looking at Android, it can be put into any type of mobile device and customized in any particular way. And the confusing thing for me that I find is that you can walk into a phone store or even a computer store that sells tablets, and each of these devices will be running a different version of Android. And depending on the price, you'll get a crappier version, or you'll get the better version or the latest version. And on top of that, they're not exactly the same, even if they are the same version, because each of the device makers will customize it to suit whatever they want to use it for. So the best example being the Amazon Kindle Fire, which as an e-reader tablet has just been designed by Amazon to consume their content. Or you get your Samsung phones, which they've got their features on there. How do you see that, Steve? I don't know. I find it all a bit perplexing and confused, and that's why I've never really been attracted to that ecosystem.
Well, you've pointed this up before, Ben, and we were talking about it before as well. But it is very much like the bad olden days of I guess Windows. Where, you'd spend hours tinkering around with your computer, downloading some new drivers or perhaps another piece of firmware, or, bundling something on because you bought a periphery and, that would take you a day or two to fix. And, like that wasn't, meanwhile, everyone's going, oh, gee, the Macs are fantastic. I just plug it in and it works. And they're the two extremes. I, probably like you, don't really feel like I need to mess around, especially with a device like a phone, to get it running properly. A desktop I can persevere with.
Yeah.
A tablet I could probably persevere with if it was functional, as opposed to something like an iPad that's not. But, otherwise you just want something that's just going to work. However, having said that, I do actually think there's a sizable percentage of the population that just likes tinkering with their phones.
Yeah.
And they like downloading something new to give it a new appearance or a new function, or they like solving the problems because their phone doesn't work properly with that software. So maybe that's as much a hobby and a feature as it is a pain in the ass for some people.
Can't discount the psychological angle to it too, that I can understand why people might not be happy with Apple, say in particular. Microsoft's doing this to an extent too, where they're just telling you how you're going to use it.
Well, that's right, and this is one thing that we touched on. Our good friend Liam made the comment about iOS, I believe. What was it?
It was for kids and old people.
Now, interestingly, my nephew Joshua said the same thing, and they're 15,000 miles apart. They're about as far apart on the globe as you can get, and they're saying the same thing. You know, I think, as I said in an earlier Fist chat, Josh was saying, "Oh, I love Android because it lets me, you know, put whatever I want on the screen." I didn't realize that had something to do with the functionality of the device. But you know, is that where we're headed? Is it just, you know, people who want the freedom of expression, who want to tinker around, who want to take their device to the limit, feel that they can do it on Android? I don't actually believe they can do it any better. They just feel that they have more power over the device.
Yeah, which is fair enough. If that's something you want, then you should have that option. But just moving sideways a little bit, I just want to talk about Samsung a little bit, because they're ostensibly the largest user of Android on their devices, and arguably, given the way they're going with the success that they're having, they're sort of becoming their own thing now, almost separate to Android, because obviously they're selling so many handsets, and I actually don't mind a couple of them in terms of the design. To me, the Galaxy phones, particularly the S3 and that new one, the S4. Yeah, I like the design. It's too big for me for a phone. I mean, I'd probably go the Galaxy Note if I was going to go that big. Because
well, I guess you wouldn't go for, you know, the S4, Ben, because you don't carry a handbag, you know, or a laptop bag or something. They're big.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see the point of having a phone that you can't use in one hand. You know, you should be able to do that, and you know, okay, maybe I've swallowed the Apple marketing Kool-Aid on that one, but I'm just not into that. But I still appreciate the devices. They're very nice looking devices, and they work out of all the Android devices very well. And also the same with the Galaxy Tab tablets. They look very nice. Interestingly, there was an article that I came across because Google picked up Motorola in one of its acquisitions, and now there's this report that Samsung may switch to a completely different operating system for its phones. And that's largely because they've become so big and so successful that they can do that. They don't have to be tied to Android, even though it's helped them become the success that they have.
Yeah, well, my only comment on that, Ben, is I have a Samsung smart television. I use their apps and their interface, and it better be bloody better than that. I mean, I would hope that they would maybe take the best from iOS and the best from Android and put them together, because honestly, you know, what they're doing with smart television is pretty disappointing, considering they have such high quality hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll move just back to Google now and sort of expand things out a little bit. One of the things that I find is that there are some services that Google has put out that are superior to even some of Apple's offerings. For example, I don't know if you've used it, Steve, but the Siri equivalent that Google put out, Google Voice,
yes.
That is far, far better than what Siri is, as far as I can tell. I mean, obviously, it's still not 100% perfect, but it seems to understand me better than what Siri would ever do.
Yeah, I agree, and I just wonder if that's because, you know, Google developed that from scratch, whereas Apple picked up a product that was already developed. And even though Siri's quite good, you always wonder if you really need to go back and make some big changes to the base code. Then, you know, if you don't have the original team, how do you go about it? So that might be why.
And of course, you know, their search functionality is obviously the number one in the industry. Maps, I think, is the thing that to me is just incredibly impressive from them. Obviously, you know, Apple got laughed at with their pretty average offering in iOS 6 with their Maps app. you look at the Google Maps app, for example, on the iPhone or any other phone, and also on the desktop experience, it just provides you with such a comprehensive location search that you really wouldn't want to go anywhere else. And I mean, also some other things. What do you reckon about Google Glass and how that's fitting into the picture?
I just want to see if people take to it. That's really it. I mean, it's a great idea.
It's a bit Minority Report, I think.
Well, there's already places apparently in the States because Google have released, 100 pairs for people to test now.
Yeah.
And there's already bars in the States saying, you'll be banned if you try to wear Google glasses in, cafes, because obviously you can monitor people. But I just think there's something particularly disturbing about the fact that, you and I could be sitting here and those glasses you're wearing, Ben, you could actually be watching a Hollywood film, while I think I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just taking the whole, etiquette thing from people texting and tweeting in front of you to a whole new level. I do think, though, if it takes off in terms of popularity, it will have huge social implications. More than technological.
Well, just finally, that's where I think Google and Samsung, I think, because they kind of go hand in hand, have differentiated themselves a bit from the other tech giants in that they seem to be more interested in pushing all of those technological boundaries quicker. Like some of the features that are in the Samsung phones, they're really putting a lot more features than, say, what Apple would in its iPhone. Because, Apple historically doesn't want to put something in its phone unless it can get it to work 100%, even though that's not always been the case. But
or unless it actually has unless it has a real function. So I think Samsung are experimenting with a lot of stuff that really isn't that functional. But the thing is, 10 years down the track, it may be highly functional.
Yeah, well, there's always those concepts of, you wave your hand over the phone and that sort of thing. I can see Google and or Samsung sort of developing that technology first, because you don't, and that actually might make sense because, say, for example, Apple, they're talked about as being the innovator, but actually, for example, the iPod was not a new idea; it was just an idea that was perfected.
Exactly. So I think that's kind of where you're actually seeing more innovation from Samsung and Google than you do from Apple, where Apple's real chief or trump has always been the design and the fact they take whatever is there already. They know that there's a market for it and they create that product so it works well and is acceptable to the market, and they'll make a sale. Absolutely.
All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again for the chat.
Anytime. Tweet us, Fist Chat fans. I will be looking at the HTC One maybe as a replacement instead of the iPhone 5S/6, whatever it'll be in September.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next time.